So we are in a very special location today, just on the outskirts of Gallipoli, a destination for people that come to visit Salento. But what I would like to talk to you today, it's something really important today, and it's been extremely important in the history of Salento. Carparo. Just probably like the Italians are known for the marble in Carrara, here in Salento they're known for pietra leccese and Carparo, the two stones that have been used to build incredible churches like the Cathedral in Gallipoli and many other churches. Also known as Mater Gratiae, this stone, and the reason is because this church here sort of marks the area where the stone is extracted. So today we're going to visit a quarry. I'm going to take you really back in a journey that goes back to the 14th century, where at least that's the first witness that we have in these caves that we're going to visit, to today, the extraction today of Carparo. This is Carparo, this is the stone. It's a limestone sediment that it's found after the soil gets removed. But how was it extracted in the 14th century? Well, let's go and have a look and meet the guys that still do the job today here in Salento. So we are with Mirko Stefanelli. Hi Mirko.
Yeah, I'm Mirko Stefanelli and I'm 18.
Yes, he's a very young boy, very handsome, good looking, and also the son of this man who had an incredible vision. Behind us, what is this?
Questo è il Carparo, ed è la pietra locale. Questa in realtà è un blocco sforme ed è, diciamo, la parte più grande della nostra estrazione. E questo in particolare è il mazzaro, il carparaccio, non è la...
So I hope you're good with your Italian, because he's just told us that this has got a particular name. Apart from being Carparo, this is like the rough, and you can tell because of the amount of fossils and little stones and pebbles that can be found. And this is like a huge block which is then cut into shapes. And I think Mirko wants to show us really what happens at the moment in the quarry. So you're going to tell us all your life history. Sì? Ci parlerai della tua famiglia?
Ah, sì, certo.
Sì?
In pratica noi siamo dei zoccatori in gergo, e la nostra famiglia è da 8 generazioni proprietaria di queste cave qui.
Wow, so this is an eight generations, and they're known as zoccatori, which it comes from a term of literally hitting it with a pickaxe to remove the blocks, because obviously the mechanical part was introduced later in the 70s. I think we're going to go now and wander down. Andiamo a vedere giù? Okay, let's go. Together with Mirko now, the background, it's really, really grand. This is some of the buildings that have been built for hundreds of years using the Carparo stone, and Ezio, the father, has used some of those ancient techniques as well to create elements that we're going to see as we wandering through the quarry. So, should we go in? Andiamo?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go. So Mirko, tell us, how old is this quarry? How old is this site where you're extracting Carparo today?
La datazione accertata, quella che abbiamo trovato qui, è risalente al 1401.
Wow.
Quindi probabilmente però l'estrazione risale all'era dei Messapi.
So that's incredible. So he's just said that they've found, which I have seen already because I've been around, that extraction on this site started in the 14th century. There is a date which is actually been carved in a stone as 1401, correct? 1401. 1401. But as we turn around, no, mentre ci giriamo, this is where we're going to go now. This is an open pit, is a quarry. So they literally cut the mountain or cut the stones to create these blocks, this Carparo stone. We can see Carparo everywhere. Wherever we look around here, obviously, it's made in Carparo. And masserie have been made in Carparo, vero? Masserie, Cathedral have been made in Carparo. Like, for example, the very well-known Cathedral in Gallipoli. It's all made in Carparo.
Sono infrastrutture tante.
Yeah. So amazing. This stone has been so important in the history of Salento. Today, it gets used in a different way. It gets used for artistic reasons. So artists today carve and make sculptures. giusto?
Sì.
Che gli artisti le usano adesso
Sì, sì.
per fare delle sculture oppure per fare dei rivestimenti.
Sì, è più decorativa che è costruttiva.
See, so it's incredible. So today the use is changed. So they use it to perhaps cover or clad a building. So the building is made with modern materials, and then they clad it using Carparo, which is obviously in a much thinner. Where in the old days, big blocks were used to build a whole masseria, a whole building in Carparo. What an incredible stone made of sediment. Of fossils, yes, like sand. So if you ever build a castle, a sand castle on the beach, no? Se costruisci un castello di sabbia, and it went really, really hard like a rock, that will be your Carparo. So as we're wandering down together, it'll be interesting to know the history. Quindi qual è la storia della tua famiglia?
Allora, è stata acquistata negli anni 60 questo sito qui perché la mia famiglia estraeva tra la zona di Parabita, Puglia.
So this site was acquired by his grandfather in the 1960s.
E mio nonno, essendo del 1924, fino agli anni 50 hanno estratto col piccone, quindi manualmente.
So because his grandfather was from 1924, so a different generation, and in them days there was no technology, there was no electricity, he was there taking it out with his pickaxe.
E il secondo dopoguerra, quindi si è iniziato ad avere l'impiego di macchine e utensili per l'estrazione del Carparo, e quindi si sono messi a cielo aperto, non più nelle grotte, e si è estratto.
Now we're getting a clue, but I'm not going to show you what he's just mentioned until later in the video. But in the 1960s, the introduction of electricity, petrol, changed everything. So they were not digging it from underground in these caves. They were actually starting to cut and extracting it from the top. So what he's just told us is that there are caves where they were digging it. So we're going to go now and see how actually the stone is taken out today using modern techniques. Ok, andiamo a vedere come adesso viene estratta in tempo moderno. Ok, we are here right on the ground where the stone gets pulled out, no? Qui è proprio dove la pietra viene tirata fuori. The man over there that is hiding is responsible for this fantastic quarry, for this open pit quarry, and for what we're going to see later. Really a man with a vision. But let's talk about Carparo for a moment. So this is the Carparo stone, which it's a calcarenite rock. So it's totally like a lime stone, but it's very porous, and it also has different colors, no?
Sì.
We're just going to get Mirko in the video. So Mirko,
Il Carparo,
yes.
il Carparo principale, quello buono, ha il colore giallastro.
So the real good Carparo, it's got like a yellow color, which is exactly the color of the sand when you are on the beach. It's exactly like the color of la spiaggia, vero? La sabbia della spiaggia.
Sì. Quello in superficie invece a contatto con la terra e diventa più rossiccio.
And this is a really interesting thing. We don't have a piece at the moment, but we're going to find it. Where you have the more red Carparo, probably in some of the videos that I've done in the past, and you've seen some of the vaulted ceilings, you've seen a really, really red Carparo. Now, that red Carparo is the one that it's found right on the first layers, giusto? Sulle prime linee. And what's the reason? Why is it red? Perché
è rosso che ci sono le infiltrazioni della terra alla parte di sopra, quindi diciamo diventano rossastre con l'acqua, col fatto che è poroso il Carparo va ad entrare dentro i pori della pietra.
Wow, so the reason why it's red is because the soil at the top is red, and with the infiltration over thousands, millions of years, milioni di anni, the first up to probably 1 meter, forse un metro?
Sì, un metro, sì, un paio di metri.
Sometimes up to 2 meters, the color it's red. And is the composition the same? La composizione è uguale?
La composizione ovviamente no, non è uguale, a seconda della composizione poi la terra penetra di più o meno.
So depending on how the Carparo is as a composition, the soil could penetrate more. But the composition is also different because as a result of the soil penetrating the stone becomes harder.
Sì, diventa
Giusto?
più dura, sì, certo.
It becomes much harder. And it's easy if you think about that in the old days when cement didn't exist, they used to use the red soil mixed with a lot of other things to actually build properties, or to build houses, or to build walls. So you can imagine the same situation with this soil penetrating the stone, and so the first few meters were much harder, and that explains why they used to take the Carparo out in a certain way until machinery were invented.
Certo, sì. Sì.
Giusto? Yes, he's confirming what I've just said. So, how do they take it out now? Quindi come lo tirate fuori adesso?
Fuori?
Let's have a look.
Utilizziamo due macchine, che una è la macchina scalzatrice, una la macchina carassatrice. Una fa le prime linee.
So they use two machines, one that cuts this way and another one that cuts this way. Should we have a look at the machines?
Certo.
Le vediamo? Let's have a look at the machine. So, wow. So first of all, we have like a train track here. È un binario, so this is like a truck where this machine runs on the truck. So this is the machine that runs on the truck. I'm not going to get my hands very close to this machine because you never know. I never trust this technology. But these are the blades. These are the blades that cut into the ground, and the machine runs on this truck. And so you can imagine two cuts that are done horizontally onto the ground, and so this is the first machine. Quindi questa è la prima macchina.
La prima macchina. La seconda macchina invece è quella lì che ha il disco parallelo al terreno.
And so the second machine is this one, which we're going to look at the moment, which has got a blade which is parallel to the ground. There we are. So let's have a look at this machine. So,
È quella che scalza il blocco.
and so this machine, after the other one is cut the lines into the ground, this machine goes underneath, cutting it. And so you can imagine, once that cut is done, the other cut across is done, then you have a nice cube. You pull out the cube, giusto?
Sì, sì.
Una volta che hai fatto il taglio così
Esce fuori il blocco.
yeah, we call it a block, but let's call it a cube, like a sugar cube, but a little bit heavier and bigger. And when you see these men that have been doing this job for a long time, he picks them up like he's picking up something really small. What's the weight? Quanto è il peso di un blocco?
All'incirca saranno dai 20 a 38 kg a seconda del blocco, della falda, della composizione.
Okay, so it goes from about 20 kilos to about 38 kilos, 40 kilos. It likes to be very accurate, 38 kilos. But it also depends on the composition of the stone. Composition meaning that some stone may be a little more compact, and for that reason, obviously, it's heavier. Se la pietra è più compatta.
Sì, è più compatta, è più dura.
And so it goes from, let's go and have a look at a block. Vediamo un blocco. Let's go and have a look. So yeah, we walking here, and probably you can hear the sound in the background. They're just working here in the pit. And yes, there we are. So this is a block. Now, these blocks were used to build the whole of Salento. Yes, the whole of Salento, going back to the 9th century, the modern buildings were built using this stone. I mean, that's incredible. So we're going to go and see actually where the stone was dug out 600 years ago to build buildings that are making the world looking at Salento in a different way. Masserie, churches, beautiful historic buildings, all using the Carparo stone. And also, an interesting thing about the Carparo stone, Mirko, is the fact that it can be worked.
Sì, può essere lavorato molto facilmente questo. È un po' poroso, quindi si può sgretolare facilmente. La pietra leccese si presta di più alla lavorazione, però comunque un ottimo materiale.
So it can crumble because it's soft, but it can be worked. Well, Michelangelo wouldn't have chosen Carparo. No, Michelangelo wouldn't have chosen Carparo. Too easy for him, no? Era troppo facile. For Michelangelo wanted the hard Carrara stone. But it's incredible to think that this open pit, which is huge, is thousands of square meters of stone is being pulled out. And just like this quarry, there's so many in Salento, have been responsible for the beautiful buildings that we have now in Salento. So, how was Carparo taken out from the ground in the past?
In pratica veniva scalzato col piccone, e lo prendo subito, che questo qui.
Ok. Ah,
era un
so
po' diverso.
they use a pickaxe to pull it out. But can you show us a place where they used to take it out? Ci puoi far vedere? So he's going to show us how Carparo was taken out of the ground in the 14th century, 15th century, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, until electricity came in and, you know, big noise machines, and that pickaxe was put to one side. So let's go and have a look and see how Carparo really was taken out of the ground for centuries, and how this family now is taking it to another level. Let's go and have a look. Now we're gonna go and you're gonna show us how Carparo was taken out of the ground 500 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes, 600 years ago, in the 14th century. I think you can see some incredible things behind me already. So we're gonna go and enter some caves. These are caves, although they're not natural caves, but because these are probably 400, 300 years old, they are considered as caves. And well, anyway, without telling you anymore, let's go and walk together with Mirko. So this site obviously is not in use. It's probably getting developed. They have some ideas of what could potentially happen. You're going to see how beautiful it was. And in them days, they only had one tool. Well, they had several tools, but the main tool in pulling out the blocks era
Piccone.
il piccone, the pickaxe, and two sides to the piccone. This side here and this side here. So now he's going to explain to us how was it used. But let's step into, now this place is also called the Cathedral,
Sì,
le Cattedrali.
Sì.
And so why is it called the Cathedral?
Perché dato la forma e diciamo come dire, la maestosità della struttura e la grandezza, venivano dette le cattedrali, perché la cattedrale è tipicamente la forma delle chiese grandi, enormi, e questo riprende un po' quelle che sono le dimensioni delle cattedrali.
So they also took this name Cathedral when the first people stepped under here, because the shape and the size of them and kind of reminded them of the cathedral, these really high constructions with beautiful shapes. Now, are you ready to see the cathedrals? Wow. Well, this is just one. Questa è solo una. This is just one. And we're going to go through here and then we're going to explain how this was done. Can you see this opening? So actually, let me just start from over here, Mirko. We can start from that gap over there.
Il modo in cui partivano stretti e poi si allargavano, la forma della campana.
So this is how they started. So imagine they were digging out a little bit of the soil. They would do a test hole to see if the Carparo, the stone, was good. Yeah, and then after they realized the stone was good, they would just start cutting a square, and then once they went past the hard stone, remember the red Carparo, which is a bit harder, they started to open themselves up, creating these incredible shapes with four sides. They were like a gigantic bell. Can you see the opening there? Now we've come in from an open pit. So this was a network of caves, giusto? Questa era una rete, a labyrinth of caves going on for miles, because the Carparo stone here was used to build all the Salento area. So his father, tuo papà,
ha iniziato a ripulirle.
But he remembers this being a labyrinth and getting lost. His father has told me that he came down these caves and it was a labyrinth and he got lost. Totally lost. Can you imagine? A labyrinth of these beautiful constructions. Now, we said that Ezio is a visionary. I've met this man. It's definitely a man with a vision. What was his vision? His vision was to preserve some of these caves.
E recuperare soprattutto, non solo.
Yes, and bring them to a stage that people can really enjoy them. Now, because what happened to these caves was that when the soil at the top or the surface was purchased to extract all the stone, because machinery came into action, they filled all the holes. So from that hole over there, they started to pour materials. So we're going to see that as we're stepping inside one of the caves. So these were completely filled. And his father, for the last 20 years, he's been cleaning them out, exposing the cathedral. So a true visionary. So now we're getting inside a big cave. Look at this. Can you see the opening at the top? So this is another cave with an opening at the top. And can you see this behind me? This is all the material that for years and years has been dropped in to fill it all up. So they could actually take the whole of the stone. What his father is doing, it's taking that material out to expose the cathedral. Now, we really like to talk about these steps, no? Vogliamo parlare delle...
del modo in
So,
cui...
so how was he taken out? How was these blocks taken out? They didn't have the machines that we showed you earlier. So, come lo tiravano fuori? Lo facciamo fuori qui che c'è un po' più di luce. So we'll do it here that we have a little bit more light so you can see, and he can do a demonstration, perhaps on this wall here. So imagine you're starting from the top and you're working down, and so with this, he used, yeah,
questo modo.
that way, they were doing the channel. So that's the size of the pickaxe was used to do the channel. And then this way was to cut the block underneath and to pull it out. How many blocks one person could take out in one day?
Più o meno 8-9 per persona.
Wow. One day work, 8 blocks was the average that a worker underground here in the cave could pull out. Not pulling him out because there was another job, somebody else, no?
Sì.
Qualcun altro.
Tirava
But
fuori.
one day work of, what was the name of the people doing this job?
Zoccatori.
Zoccatori, taking the name from this, the pickaxe called zocco.
Cavatori.
Or cavatori in dialect, zocco. So, zoccatori. So one zoccatore in one day, boom, boom, boom. The other way was taking out an average of 8 blocks. They reckon that one of these caves here, the size of this, could last about 20 years, 30 years. Giusto?
Sì.
20 anni, 30
20
anni.
anni, 30 anni.
20,
40.
30 years with
A
10.
seconda della grandezza della grotta.
And some of the caves apparently are huge. A lot of them have been lost because they're all been opened up from the top and they've collapsed and they've used all the stone. So, well, thank God there's people like his father that they've had a vision and they've preserved something that for future generation is going to tell us so much about the history of Salento and how a lot of the buildings have been built thanks to the Carparo stone and the work of these zoccatori. Now, how many now with machinery, with modern machinery, how many blocks can be pulled out in one day?
Più o meno al minuto ne tiriamo fuori 50 al minuto.
Okay, so 8 in one day with a hand back in the days. 50, yes, 50 in 1 minute.
Seconda della grandezza della cava.
So that's how where everything changed. When the machinery came in, they opened up, they took the top off, sliced all up, and obviously all the caves collapsed. We've lost it all. But thanks to this man with a vision, we now have an incredible witness of what these places were like, and also today giving us an incredible environment to think about future things. True? Quindi questi spazi possono anche essere qualcosa di...
Destinati in qualcosa.
They can be used in a completely different way, just like old, well, I don't know, you may think of the Arena di Verona. It wasn't constructed to be an arena for concerts, and now we listen to beautiful concerts. So it's the same thing with these places here today that can become something completely different, creating a legacy for future generation. So should we go and have a look at a little space? And also I want Mirko to show me Mirko, come scendevano? We're going to show me at the other place, but come scendevano?
Scendevano dalla parte di sopra e c'era una specie di scala con delle patate, con degli incavi che gli permettevano di scendere dalla parte di sopra fino alla parte di sotto. Ovviamente era una scala di discesa e di risalita.
So they had holes on the walls while they were digging down to pull out the stone. They keep making cavities where they could put their hands and their feet on, and they will use that as steps to come all the way down, up to 25 meters underground, 25 meters underground, pulling out these blocks. Can you show us one of the stones? We're going to go and see one of the steps, and he's actually going to show us how to come up and down one of those steps. Let's go and have a look. Did a day work look like in the 14th century, 15th century? Well, we said they started from up there, but they needed to come down. So here we have our worker. Probably doesn't have the same clothes that they were wearing. Apparently no shoes. And coming down using these places where he could put his feet and his hands. So there were no stairs. They will come down using these holes made while they were digging down. And then once they were on the ground, there we are. The worker is here in the ground. He had his tool waiting for him, his pickaxe, big, and he was ready to start his day here digging, taking out. There we are. He was doing that. And as we're looking into the walls, we can see all the different holes that they were left by the pickaxe. Can you see that? Yes. But we also learned something really, really interesting. When they got to a wall like this, he was on the left. Now, if he was a handwrite man, he was really struggling. So what they would do, they would call out for un
Mancinaro.
Un mancinaro. Now, mancino is a left-hander. So they would call for somebody that was a left-hander who could come and who can use the pickaxe on the left side to cut out the wall on the left side. I mean, that was incredible. They had to borrow un mancinaro from probably another cave. So they would send the word out, no? Chiamavano forse anche un'altra cava.
Sì, veniva prestato.
And the mancinaro will be borrowed, a little bit like football. Sometimes they borrow players, no? Come nel calcio. A little bit like football, they borrow players between teams. So they would call a mancinaro who would come and he would pick up the pickaxe, and because he was left-handed, he would cut the wall on the left side. Now, so much history, so much beauty. If you come to Salento, it would be a pleasure for me to introduce you to this extraordinary family with a vision, who have turned what used to be a site of work into a site of history and potentially something else in the future, giving us a legacy. È vero? This is a legacy for generations. So when you look at a beautiful building in Salento, the church in Gallipoli or in Nardò, San Domenico, all made in Carparo, then think about these people, 8 blocks in one day, just all day long, no shoes, and then the day was finished and they had to... Yes, sorry?
O con la sola luce del sole o con pochi lumini.
And all they had was the light coming through that hole, Mirko just told us, or some little oil lamps that they brought down here to work when the caves were very, very, very big. Well, those were the days. So thank you very much for giving us this tour. Let's see what else we can say to wrap it all up here in Salento. Let's finish it off here with Filippo, the last one of 8 generations of zoccatori digging rocks out. I know that you can't see my face, you can't even see Filippo's face, because the surrounding, it's taken over, and that's the way it should be. It's amazing to think that millions of blocks of Carparo have been taken out for centuries to leave us the legacy of beautiful buildings, extraordinary pieces of history all through Salento. And now in the 21st century, we can enjoy them in a completely different light. So I would say thank you very much to the Stefanelli family for giving me the opportunity to enter in the space that I think it's almost sacred, and that's why they call them the cathedrals. They look like cathedrals, and they've been responsible for the construction of cathedral. So I always say Salento is not just about the blue sky, and it's not just about the beaches and the sun and the sea. It's also about the history that has made this place one of the best places to be discovered in Italy. So if you have enjoyed the video with Filippo, Mirko over there, subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave a comment. If you're ever here in Salento, well, you may be lucky and you may be able to see this site if I take you. And thank you very much. Leave a comment, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or just put a like. Thank you very much.